The little boy realized that his dead father was clearly standing right beside him, but everyone told him that the man was his father's twin brother. They also said that his father was already dead. The boy was certain he hadn't mistaken the man's identity. So every time his uncle came home, he called him Dad. But each time, the man would push him away and remind him that he had mistaken someone else for his father. Even his wife thought the man looked exactly like her husband, but her husband was already dead. She could only accept it silently. She decided to raise the child on her own. Until one rainy night, 3 years later, she overheard a conversation between her father-in-law and her brother-in-law. Only then did she learn that it was actually the brother who had died 3 years ago. Her husband had faked his death using his brother's identity to care for his pregnant sister-in-law. Upon learning the truth, the woman hated her husband with all her heart. What she couldn't understand was that her husband had always treated her well since they married. They had even been known as a loving couple. After her husband's death, she refused to return to the city with her mother-in-law. She chose to stay in the countryside and remain a widow for life. She never imagined it was all a ruse. It caused her son to bear the stigma of having no father at such a young age. Since the man had abandoned them to raise another woman and child, she saw no reason to remain his widow. She recalled what her mother once said. The childhood sweetheart who had promised to marry her when they grew up had insisted on marrying her after learning her husband had died, and that childhood sweetheart was now a billionaire CEO to give her son a complete family. She called her mother, who lived far away in the city. Her mother was overjoyed to hear she was willing to marry the CEO. She said the CEO would treat the boy as his own son. Hearing this, the woman had no further reservations. However, she needed to wait 3 more days until the 3rd anniversary of her husband's death to repay the man for saving her life all those years ago. The next day at dinner, she saw the man acting as someone else's father and husband. Her appetite vanished instantly. She told her father-in-law that the memorial anniversary was in 2 days. She planned to go to the mall tomorrow to buy sacrificial offerings. Worried, the man offered to go with her. At that moment, the boy called out Uncle, saying there was no need to trouble Uncle. He could accompany his mother to shop. Hearing his son, who had called him Dad for 3 years, switched to calling him Uncle, the man felt oddly unsettled. The boy explained that he had been too young and ignorant before, so he had mistaken his uncle for his father. Now that he was older and knew his father had been dead for 3 years, he would never call his uncle Dad again. The man felt heartbroken upon hearing those words. He felt as if he were losing his son. He thought that since his wife loved him so much, she would never leave their home. Just as he was beginning to feel at ease, the woman told him that he was not the boy's biological father, and that he no longer needed to concern himself with their affairs. The man was stunned by her words. Without looking back, the woman pulled her son into the room. The next day, the woman went to a store to buy items for her wedding. As she was leaving, the boy spotted a beautiful wedding dress. He said his mother would look even more beautiful wearing it. The woman realized that tomorrow she would be remarried, so she tried it on for her son. The moment she stepped out in that dress, the air seemed to stand still, captivated by her beauty. Even the sales clerk showered her with praise. The woman felt the dress suited her perfectly, so she bought it as the dress for her wedding the day after tomorrow. Just as the two were leaving, the man arrived at the store with his sister-in-law. He asked where the woman planned to go. She replied that he was merely her late husband's brother and had no right to question where they were going. Then she left with her son. At that moment, the man realized she had just purchased a wedding dress, suspecting she might be remarrying someone else. He suddenly grew anxious.